Welcome along to the EXFL Tier 2 Season 9 Belgian Grand Prix. We're back for part 2 of the season. We're here for round 12 out of 22 at Spa-Francorchamps. 10 drivers at the moment, still waiting on Eggy and Morgan to join in quali to make it 12. But we are back after a week's break, a mid-season break. We are here at Belgium. Got a couple drivers out on track at the moment on Inters. So I'll take you through. Frosty Life, back in the Red Bull, back on track, looking to score some more points for the Austrian team. Laser Gamer exits the pits on the Inters for Ferrari. Hoping to also gain some more ground after a career best finish in Hungary of P5. Josh Hewitt back in the RB, still looking for his first points of the season. His teammate has scored every single one of them. They're second in the Constructors. Quite a big margin behind Alpine. But maybe this second half of the season, Josh can come back into his form and gain some ground. Drifting back in the Alpine after missing out Hungary. We'll hope to get some more points on the board for his team. It might be raining for the race. I'm not too sure. It is Belgium after all. We've got Christian fully promoted to the McLaren now after he unfortunately did cause a bit of a collision into turn 1 at Hungary. Hopefully he's going to come back this time round and show what he's made of into turn 1 this time round. Eggy back in the Mercedes then. P4 last time out. He's slowly but surely regaining some good pace and getting a lot of points on the board. Nathan back in the Aston Martin alongside Oren to hopefully score some more points as well, as they are kind of close to RB. Championship leader then, Seb, who has led the World Championship for every single race so far this season. He's come under a bit of bother in the last however many races from two distinct names for a three-way fight in the championship. But obviously Hungary happened, as there's one of the two. Hungary happened, which obviously made it a bit bigger, the gap, a bit more breathing room for Seb. Smolnik also in the fight, at least race by race, definitely not in the championship fight, but he's definitely going to be up there. Oren then won 4 out of 5 races from Imola all the way up to the British Grand Prix. It was a really unfortunate Hungarian Grand Prix for him. Got pole, as it was just him and Seb pretty much trading poles. Got pole, but ended up finishing 6th due to a collision with Frosty. Just a bit of an off day for him. But that was the end of the first half. He starts this second half hoping to go better, and now Chubster will be hoping to get more points on the board as well, as he flies into a Rouge and up through Radion. And they were... Okay, Morgan's picked the McLaren for some reason. He's made a mistake. I've just talked to him about it. Well done. I mean, his points will still go to Alpine. Because someone did this a few seasons back in Austria. I believe it was actually a championship winner that season, Taze Frozen, who picked the Mercedes instead of the McLaren or whatever it was. Anyway, Morgan and Frost, the only ones in the pits. Everyone else out on a lap. Josh Hewitt on the medium. Same with Oren. Lays on the Inters. And here we are. Championship leader, Sebastian Ferrugia. 29 points clear of Oren, who is 1 point ahead of Morgan. So Morgan, who was the runner-up, who we thought would be fighting Seb, dropped off a little bit. And then Oren came up through the ranks. And then we thought he would be the one fighting Seb, but it turns out to be both of them are chasing him. Seb, no matter what happens after today, will still be leading the championship. And Morgan, who was actually supposed to miss a race, is here. So equal chance for all of them. They've just got to close 30-odd points on Seb. Chubster then sets the pace, but Smolnik obliterates that a second ahead with a 43.2. Josh back in the pits. Laser back in the pits. Drifting, going strong, heading up to the bus stop. I'm guessing Morgan's McLaren in another league. I guess that's what he thought. Right, drifting across the line then. Just over a tenth and a half behind Smolnik in the Williams. Eggy 15.5 through the middle sector. Seb through a Rouge and Radion on the soft compound tyres as Oren. Looks like he may have messed up his medium run. Or might be going again. 15.5 as well for Christian. So Eggy and Christian quite level through the bus stop chicane. Bit of a make or break corner, but it's the longest track on the calendar as he gets caught on the curb a little bit. But Eggy crosses the line. P3, 8.5 tenths off Small Nick. And I'll see what Christian can do. Quite similar, so let's see if he can beat the Mercedes. Through the bus stop then for the McLaren. A little bit more of a wiggle, going a bit wider. This time doesn't take too much curb. Pulls a bit to the left, crosses the line, and he does, by 1,000th, beat Eggy. Morgan on his outlap. Josh on his outlap now on the softs. So we'll see what Seb can do then as he makes his way past a bit of traffic through the middle sector, the most technical part of the racetrack. This revamped, revitalised Belgian track layout with thinner curbs. As we see the Williams off there just getting out of the way. Through Blanchimont now for the championship leader. And heading up to the more elevated bus stop now. Takes it very nicely indeed. So at 43.2 is the time to beat for the RB driver. He's going to cross the line. 42.9 to go 2.5 tenths clear and into the 42s. We'll see what Morgan can do then. He begins his lap running aboard with the Alpine driver in a McLaren. Exits turn 1 very nicely with Norris's helmet. Plunges his way down into a ruse. Seb gets out of the way. Makes his way up very nicely indeed. A bit overcast now compared to the start of the session, which was a bit more clear. Don't suspect rain will happen, but you never know. It's a 31-1 as he heads into Les Combes. Slides the car, but has it pretty planted. No big mistakes so far. Don't want to get caught on that curb. It can fully catch you and send you off. Now the long right-hander. Quick left into No Name or the Jackie X corner. A lot of grass kicked up as he took a lot of the inside. Now heading into Piron. It should be flat. Which it is. Not as easy to invalidate. Yeah, not as easy to invalidate at Piron as it was. As drifting has a just under a 7/10 gap to 4th. So Morgan minimum will place his car between that or challenge 15.2. So it's 3/10 quicker than what these two did. But he's still got to find a bit more time. His first sector should be representative enough. Laser just heading into a rouge now. Josh 31.3, couple tenths off what Morgan has done. As he heads into the bus stop then. Nearing halfway through the session already. Round the final corner for the McLaren / Alpine driver. Across the line, it's a 43.6 and he does place himself in between. Really hope pit stops aren't going to affect, well, at least Christian, because drifting's the only Alpine. Yeah, just hope that doesn't happen. Anyway, Seb's saying now we're at pace, but we're still waiting for what Oren can do. And at this rate, he's only going to be able to do one run, unless he gets out the pits right now. Anyway, we'll see what Laser can do. Plunging into Piron as a 15.6 for Josh. He's still lacking about 3/10, which would put him really close to these two. Maybe even put him as low as 7th, maybe even 8th. Riding on board with the RB driver. Heading in to the bus stop chicane. Taking it nice and cautiously. He knows there's still one run left. DRS open for the RB driver. Crosses the line and it is 7th. Close margins between him to 5th. And now we'll see what Laser can do. He's also quite similar to Josh, so it's going to be quite close from 5th down to 8th. But where can Lucas place his car? On the 3rd row or the 5th row? 3rd or 4th row, should I say. Crosses the line, it's the 5th row. For Lucas, he lost a bit of time then at the end. Frosty begins this lap then. So, into turn 1, the Red Bull. De-accelerating, taking a lot of curb at turn 1. Lucas gets out of his way. And it's all about using battery as well. He's not used as much as you'd think. But he gets loose out of Rouge a little bit there. Still in hot lap, now in overtake. As you want to obviously use it all in the first and last sector. You don't really touch it at all in the middle. It's a 31.3, so he's pretty level with what Josh did. But at the moment, Seb showing the pace. Oren is out on track. Really don't know if he'll be able to do 2 runs, though. What about Smallneck? Into the gravel there. Pushing a little too hard. It looked like a purple set to 1. (31-1). But he went into the gravel. Don't know how much time that would have lost him. He's really going for it and somehow kept it valid. But if he's got to find some time, like he did in that first sector, which would have been good enough to put him on with Seb, but he's got to carry that momentum for 2 more sectors. And we'll see what Frosty Life's been up to. 15.1. What a middle sector from Frosty Life. Really solid stuff. So he could definitely put his car minimum 4th. Yes, Nick has lost half a second now. 14.9 he did in the middle. So Frosty, this won't be provisional pole, but I'm sure he can gain a lot of time. He's got the McLaren in front of him. Takes the Rouge quite nicely. Round the final corner. As Christian begins the lap, Frosty goes P5 to split the quote-unquote McLarens. Chubster down by 2.5 tenths. Laser in the pit lane. Oren going for it in sector 1 then. Sliding. Invalidating. And that may be not the worst thing for him, because if he finished this lap and then went again, he may have not had enough time to actually do a final run. So it's not the end of the world. But it is a bit worrisome, because if Nathan can get a good enough time on the board that's within 5 seconds, Oren will be starting this Grand Prix from last, while his rival he's chasing starts from pole. Anyway, what can Christian do as he's nearing halfway through the lap? Eggy is going through a Rouge at the moment. Chubster is just starting his lap as Nathan's about to finish his. Into the bus stop for the Aston Martin driver. Across the line, it is a 1 minute 45.9 to place him ahead of his Aston teammate. And what can drifting do? He's through Radion now. Looking at 1 minute 15s. And Christian has done a 15.2. He's found 2 and a bit tenths. But he's still going to need to find a bit more time if he wants to place his car any higher than 6th. Seb, who has had 8 poles in his career, looking for a 9th to seal 3rd on the all-time list of poles. Currently he's joint 3rd with 3 others on 8. As Frosty's gone off there, but he did his lap anyway. Christian round the final corner, slides there from the bus stop, crosses the line to 1:43.9. He improves, but only slightly. Eggy, 15.3. He's found 2 tenths as well. As that's it for Nathan. P11 at best. Oren will need to get a time on the board, and he has to give it his all. Drifting through the middle sector. 15.9. He's down by nearly 8 tenths. He's got to get back in the pits quickly. Don't really know how much time is left, because I believe that's Nathan who's retired. There we go. And now we have a yellow at sector 1. There we go. 3 minutes 53. Drifting should be fine. As Eggy improved his time and got ahead of Christian. And I'm pretty sure that's Eggy done in qualifying. I don't think he's going to be able to make it to the end, but he's showing some desperation there, trying to get there. But I believe that'll be it for the Mercedes driver. Same with Christian. And what about Laser Game? I believe he's going for a lap now. Everyone else in the pit lanes. Exiting the pit lane is Morgan, one of the 3 championship contenders. 2 poles to his name so far this season. Oren has 3 poles. Josh Hewitt has 7 of them. Seb has 8. Small Nick, I believe he has 1. No, Small Nick has never had a pole. Interesting. Okay. Drifting, he's had 1 pole to his name. In Austria, in the wet. As Lucas begins his final run, he's got to find a couple 2.5 tenths to beat Chubster. Right, 2.5 minutes remain then. They're all going to be leaving the pit lane now, because they've only got about 40, 50 seconds. The 2 RBs out on track, still waiting for Nick and Drifting, and Frosty, and Christian, who's just back in the pit lane. But, yeah. That's his qualifying done. No way is he making it out. Same with Eggy. Oren, one of the last to leave. Frosty exiting. There's Nick as well. So those two should be the last. They've got about, I don't know, 16 seconds in hand. Frosty and Nick. All the others in the pit lane. Eggy, Christian, Nathan. They'll remain where they are. Lucas through the middle sector, kicking up some grass there. A 1:15 is what you're looking for. But it looks a bit off at the moment. A 15.5. He's still found a 10th. Maybe he can find a bit more time towards the end. Two RBs. It'll be Seb, then Josh, and then Shubster, and then Drifting, and then Oren. And then the last two to cross the line will be Frosty and Nick. As Laser's backed off. He might go again. But he's not got any battery. So that's it for Laser Gamer. So around the final corner. To begin his final lap. Seb, let's see what he's got. He's the only one in the 42s. He's on provisional pole at the moment. Let's see if he can extend his gap any more than he can. Into turn one then for the RB driver. Takes it very nicely indeed. Will be whacking on the overtake soon as he plunges his way down into a Rouge. Excessive speeds, over 200 miles an hour. Trying to skin off any thousandths as you can. DRS open as he plunges his way to the end of Sector 1. A 31.1 is usually around a good first sector if you're in a bid for pole. It's a 31.0. He's found a bit more time. Has the championship leader. And taking Lecom, just lovely. Look at the speed and confidence he's got into the right-hander. He's got the traction. He's keeping it to the inside. No twitches or anything. This has been a brilliant lap so far. No mistakes. Keeping it perfect. But he's only halfway done with the lap. Into Puon then. Taking a lot of the inside curve there. Gone wide and invalidated. It was looking like such a good lap. But that is it for Seb. Now who can challenge? Drifting's up by a bit as well. A tenth and a half. He's also into the 31.0s. As Morgan goes on to provisional pole. Seb will not be on pole today. Morgan has taken it. 42.7. Kind of came out of nowhere. But watch Drifting as well. As looks like Josh Hewitt also gave up with his lap. And what about Oren? 31.1. It's not over yet. Small Nick 33.1. Small Nick will also not be on pole. It looks like he's also messed up. Frosty invalidated as well. So we are just left with Drifting and Oren. I think that's it. Seb will cross the line. He's found he's lost a bit of time. We'll cross the line. He's down anyway. So we'll see what Drifting can do. He is 3 and a bit tenths up. He needs to find a couple more in the bus stop. What has Oren done as well? 14.6. Oren is absolutely flying. But we'll see what Drifting can do then. The top 4 in the championship look to be the top 4 who are going to start this race. Can Drifting take pole away from Morgan? No, it's P3. He's just missed out on Seb, but now all eyes on Oren. He's had 3 poles to his name. Could he make it a 4th? The top 3 are probably going to start as the top 3. But in what order? Oren crosses the line. Oren takes pole position for the Belgian Grand Prix by 0.2 of a second. Morgan and Oren have done what they needed. They've outqualified Seb, and Oren right at the end did what Seb did in Britain. Was going to qualify last if he didn't give it his all. And he's turned that into pole position. It's a 4th pole for Oren. Now we await to see what the weather is like in the race. Zero, 4, 3, 1, 3, 2, 1, 5, 8. Wow. That last sector from Oren really gave him the edge. And yes, it is raining. But here's the key thing. Is that rain enough for them to start on inters? Or is it going to be how I've seen quite a few Belgian races where They could potentially still start on dries as the rain is there, but you never know if the track's fully wet or not. I called it. Yeah, they're starting on dries even though it's raining. So it's going to be a bit slippy and challenging. It's dry tyres on a wet track. And they're all on the hards. As they've loaded in now, I believe. So they're changing their tyres back. It's going to be a very interesting Grand Prix. I can't get out of the race director now. For God's sake. There we go, Vasta Ray now. Here we go then. It's the Belgian Grand Prix to start off the second half of the season. Dry tyres, wet track, 12 drivers, it's Spa, it's lights out and away we go with Oren versus Morgan off the line and Seb in the middle. And let's see who leads down into turn one as they slide as Seb positions his car in between. There's slight contact between Morgan and Seb as Morgan goes wide. And there's 4 cars at the back who have all connected as they plunge their way, continuing into turn Rouge. It's Seb versus Oren. Into Rouge. Oren stays ahead on the hards. Sebastian on the softs as they plunge as Seb goes off and Morgan's going to try and capitalise as through goes Morgan Hughes trying to get back past his rival. Oren leads them out then in front of Morgan, in front of Seb who tried to have a go. Nick in front of Drifting. Eggy follows behind trying to go around the outside of Drifting at Rouge. And there's contact between the pair as Eggy probably should have backed out and that's spun him round and that allows Nathan up to 5th. What a start from the Aston Martin driver. He's made up 6 places as there was a calamity of connection between Chubster, Laser, Christian, and I believe Frosty as well. As Eggy, due to that spin, has joined them. But the top 3 remain as they are. Thought Seb was going to do a Vettel then through Radion, but he went off, made a mistake. So the top 3, all on different compounds. Seb on the softs, Morgan on the mediums, Oren on the hards. As, again, don't discount Small Nick, who's right on the back of these lot. Dry tyres on a wet track, it's going to be, if it's like this the whole race, at any moment, anyone could lose it. And at the moment, Morgan, who lost P2 into turn 1, has regained it due to Seb's mistake. Seb actually making up a good start here, but he's now under pressure from Nick, who's using his overtake, a lot of battery to go to the inside of Seb at the bus stop, and it looks like he's going to try and take 3rd away from the RB. Little bit of contact as Seb stays in front, but Nick's going to go for the switchback, but they're just trying to gain on traction here as they go side by side. They're doing 2-minute lap times in the dry, well, technically the wet, as they're into the pit lane, Drifting. Are they going to gamble for the intermediate tyres at the end of the first lap? As Josh also looks to be coming in. And it is the Inters. As we'll look forward, Oren, 1.1 seconds. They were wheel to wheel through Rouge. I thought we were going to see madness, but Seb did back off and make a mistake. But now he's under pressure from Nick. So Inters for Drifting and Josh. And going off there is Nathan. I don't think he can believe his eyes that he's in 5th at the moment. And he's got quite a good gap to Eggy. There was just a 4-car connection. It was so bizarre. As speaking of 4, the top 4 are away. Not even that, Oren is gone. Even on the hardest compounded tyres, and they're probably going to be the coldest, he's got some good pace. And we'll see how Drifting and Josh are doing. Because the more the rain happens, obviously the wetter the track will be, and there's a certain point when you can pinpoint when Inters are better. It's usually when DRS gets disabled. Because at the moment, it's hard to tell because Drifting obviously is quicker than Christian, but in these conditions, it may be similar when the Inters and dries are quite level. So Nick saved a bit of battery. He's level with Seb. Morgan's got plenty, and so has Oren. Bit of a train forming as they're closing in on Nathan, Do Eggy, Frosty, Chubster, and Laser. Drifting is taking quite a bit of time out of Christian, but I say on a dry track the Inters would shred, but it isn't a dry track. As Morgan has gained a bit of time on Oren, and Seb into the pit lane. So he's also decided to follow. There we go. No longer sub 2 minutes. It's a 1 minute 56, so that's only about 13 seconds off what they were doing in qualifying, which you'd think is Inter level, actually. And Seb's gone for the gamble then. The championship leader. Following what his teammate's doing, and you never know, it might be the right decision. And where is Drifting? There is Drifting. And into turn 1, it's going to be close between them. It looks like the Inter tyre may actually be working out for them. Drifting exits, Seb exits the pit lane, but Drifting is in front of Seb. So Drifting may have played this perfectly right to be in front. And by the time... Oh, someone's gone off there. Drifting has to avoid the McLaren. And that allows Seb back in front of the Alpine as Christian struggling in the wet. Drifting having to avoid. That's allowed Seb back in front. I was going to say it's the longest lap of the season. So by the time the leaders get into the pit lane, these two might be clear of them. But the track is still not wet enough for DRS to get disabled. So Seb is now in front of Drifting due to avoiding Christian, who's really struggling. Oren still in front. And Nick only 7 tenths behind. Nathan's under pressure from Eggy now. As sliding in the background, the Ferrari of Lucas. Seb only 4.6 seconds behind these lot. The thing is, if this is like this the whole race, those Inters, I don't think will do 20 laps though. But you never know. And if the game is awkward and disqualifies them all because DRS technically never got disabled and whatever. Oh, that might be a warning for Seb. Surely it wouldn't disqualify them. They pitted onto a different compound, so should be calm. Laser's got ahead of Chubster then while all that was happening. Do the leaders pit? They do not. They stay out. Very interesting as Chubster gets back in front of Laser. And the gap is going down. Drifting, putting Seb under pressure. Now going to try a switch, but just can't get close enough for it. And yeah, warnings and penalties. That's also going to be something. But look at that. Fastest lap for Drifting, but only set 3 tenths. Josh Hewitt by quite a bit. He's got some good pace in the wet as well, as he's closing up to Christian and should probably get him this lap. So the Inters are quicker, but not by miles. And really don't know how it might just stay like this the entire race. And if so, I guess those who haven't pitted are in a better position, but you never know. We haven't had many VSCs or safety cars. As sliding there is Lucas. He's going to be holding Seb up. Seb has caught them at a bit of the track where he really didn't want to catch. And he's just got to be careful with his nose and where he places the car, like there on the curb that sends him off into the gravel. And that allows Drifting back through. Seb, who got caught as DRS is enabled on lap... Wait. So was DRS disabled? So DRS was disabled, I'm going to guess then. Hence why they probably pitted on Inter. So because it's now enabled, the track might be better for dries. Not too sure, though. Drifting now finds himself on the back of Laser. Seb losing time because of that mistake. And now he's caught him on the straight. Now he can blast his battery. But so is Lucas. And Drifting versus Lucas. As Drifting goes off there. And gets ahead. As they make slight contact. And Lucas gets sent off because of it. He's still sticking his nose in. Jumps to 3 second. They're still remaining wheel to wheel. And Drifting's going to try on the outside. Lucas breaks later, stays in front. Drifting still on the inside there. Lucas leaves him enough space. They're going to go wheel to wheel through the bus stop. Seb is also trying to switch back. This 3-way fight for P8. And Drifting stays behind for now. Look how much battery he's burned as he's going to go into turn 1. Sending it with a chance at P7. Still no contact. Seb nearly clips the wall. I think he did. Drifting gets the place and now it's Seb's turn. Through a rouge as Lucas loses it into Seb. And I think Seb may have just got away with damage. Lucas lets him go to apologise. And Seb, I think, will just about get away with that. Lucas, look how much he's struggling. That was clearly just due to traction. DRS is enabled, though. And Lucas coming back at Seb, who has not much battery. And Lucas to the inside, but backs off. Seb turns in, gets the place. May have been a warning, I don't know. They are 19.4 seconds off the leaders. As while all that was happening, Smolnik got ahead of Morgan. But Oren is just loving this track. If there's any track where you can have a big advantage over the rest, it's Belgium with how long the track is. This as well as tracks like Singapore. We'll keep it on gap to leader. We'll just see how it looks. Drifting has gained a couple tenths here and there as Laser now gets a penalty on Oren. So if there was a VSC, it'd be very interesting to see what they would do, because I still don't know how long the inters would last. And that's probably what's in the mindset of those who haven't pitted yet. Eggy has got past Nathan while all that was happening, and Frosty's closing up to him as well. Nathan, once again, with no battery. Frosty with plenty in the slipstream of the Aston Martin. Oren, fastest lap, 53s now. They're getting quicker and quicker. The rain has stopped, actually. Haven't even realised that. The rain has stopped. So those who pitted onto inters are going to find themselves... Look, Drifting's lost about a second nearly now. Those who pitted onto inters, it hasn't worked. The rain has stopped. And Seb is into the pit lane. The championship leader has thrown away a lot of points at the moment, and this is dreamland for Morgan and Oren. 29 and 30 points off him. And it's going to close the gap right to it. RB have thrown away the race at the moment. And now all they can hope for is a safety car. And they're going to stack, which means Josh is going to lose a bit more time. As Frosty has got past Nathan. Nathan will try and hang it around. A little bit of contact, but Frosty gets the move. And at the moment, Nathan still holding down 6th. He just needs to make sure he doesn't put overtake on at every straight. Drifting still on those inters. He really should be pitting. Otherwise, he's going to lose time. It's a dry track now. And the track was never really wet. Josh now gets a penalty. The only thing that can save RB is a safety car, because they are not getting any points at the moment. Shocking after only 6 laps. Morgan. 1.6 behind Smolnik. On the same tyres, so Smolnik showing a lot of good pace. Oren obviously showing a lot more. Morgan now blasting his battery, trying to gain on Nick, who's not using his. Oren begins lap 7 as just fastest laps after fastest laps. We're only about 6 or 7 seconds off what they were doing in qualifying now to clearly show the rain has stopped. They're 11 seconds quicker than they were on lap 1. And surely we will see Drifting into the pits. Yep. Where will we come out in respect to the RBs, though? Comes into the pits. This will make Christian into P9. And it should be the hards for Drifting. It is indeed. Seb has taken quite a bit out of Christian, so he can definitely get some points. So quite the polar opposite, where we saw Seb coming out the pit lane and Drifting close. We see Drifting coming out the pit lane, but Seb is already away. And 10-second penalty for Drifting for crossing the pit lane exit white line, as he did go quite wide there. And that is a 10-second for the Alpine. Bizarre scenes. In the first 7 laps, we see Seb down in 10th, Drifting down in 11th, Josh Hewitt down in 12th. Not really any incident-wise. It's just their choice to go onto the inters has paid the price to put them 3rd, 2nd and last. Smolnik keeping the pace to Oren, but still losing a bit of time. We'll put it back to interval now, as Frosty has left Nathan, who's under pressure from Chubster now, and Frosty is now fighting Eggy, who's looking for back-to-back P4s at the moment, but now it's Mercedes versus Red Bull for P4, 12 points, as Chubster gets past Nathan at an unorthodox place you'd usually not see. So he's got into 6th, and Nathan just has to stick with, and he's using his battery. Chubster isn't. Nathan's going to come back at him. Oren, another fastest lap. We have a yellow, and it is Christian, who's gone off into the gravel there, so that promotes Seb up in the 9th, and Drifting will close in on him as well. So we look back to see Nathan back in front of Chubster, And Frosty, 60% versus Eggy, 70%. We'll have a go into Les Combes then. Will he send it? Does the Sauber? No, he stays behind for now. He's got plenty more battery. And while Frosty looks a bit far behind, the DRS and Slipstream can gain you a lot. So let's see what he can do. As Seb now fastest lap of the Grand Prix. It's 4/10 from him as Nathan gets another penalty. No, Nathan gets his first penalty, should I say, as Chubster flies by the Aston Martin. Gets back onto the racing line, gets the job done. Frosty not quite close enough to get the Mercedes. So at the moment, if it were to finish like this, let's just ignore fastest lap, because obviously it's going to get better and better as Nathan back down the inside of the Sauber. We'll get back to that later. They're going to go wheel to wheel into No Name and Chubster. Just about hangs it through, but Nathan round the outside. What a move if he can hold this. But Chubster's not giving this up without a fight. They're going to go wheel to wheel through P1. Nathan round the outside. What commitment, what bravery, what great driving from the Aston Martin. And he's got himself back up in a 6. Chubster looking all there, down the inside, round the outside. Nathan positions his car, and he's got the place back. Great stuff from the two drivers. Looking in and out. That was great racing. So yeah, quickly, ignoring fastest lap. If they finish like this, Oren would be gaining 23 points on Seb, which would bring it from 29 down to 6 points. And Morgan would be gaining 15, which would be gaining 12 on Seb, 13 on Seb, which would gain it from 30 to 17. So the top three within 17 points, but I'm sure this is not over yet. As the sun is coming out, Frosty still with Eggy, as Morgan is deciding to pit from the mediums to the hards. He's trying to undercut Nick. And we see Chubster back down the inside of Nathan. Hangs it around the outside. Tight lines means they both make a bit of contact. Nathan will have the DRS as he's behind, as they're going to hit the detection point now. And Nathan stays behind through Eau Rouge, not looking for any silly move. But now he's got the DRS. Not really much ERS, but I'm sure that DRS will help him. As Frosty gets round the outside, goes to the inside. Eggy's still putting up a fight, but Frosty's in front as Nathan is also in front. So Frosty is through on the Mercedes, as it looks like those mediums are falling off a bit for Eggy. Nathan stays in front as Morgan has exited the pit lane, 1.3 behind these guys. Seb, 9 seconds behind. Looks like Nathan's going slowly there. He may have made a mistake or Chubster hit him. Whatever the case, it's lost him ground to Morgan, who's also on the back of Chubster. And if he can get a good enough run through Puon, he might be able to send it to the inside. But it looks like he's going to stay behind for now. And we'll wait until we get into Blanchimont. Seb, yeah, look, you can see he's taking a lot of time out of Laser, who's caught the back of Nathan. Morgan round the outside of the Sauber. Just gets squeezed out a bit. But it's hard racing, and now he's going to blast all his battery, probably, in a bid to get past him. But he's staying behind as Nick is into the pit lane. So does Morgan want the DRS instead? Or does he think that'll gain him more than what there is? Christian, round again. Same place. Frosty, fastest lap of the race. He's loving those hard compound tyres. Nick pits. You see Morgan round the final corner. Yellow for Josh Hewitt. Also going for a spin. So where is Nick in comparison? He's way ahead of Morgan. So that didn't matter. Seb now fastest lap of the race. Morgan blasting his battery. Staying behind. Wants the DRS. But look how much time he's lost to Nick. 2 seconds. He'll fly past him here though. Got the DRS. There we go. It's now in, as Josh Hewitt has given up in the pit lane. And Morgan to the inside of Chubster. Chubster hangs it round the outside. And we're actually still staying in front of the Alpine driver. Chubster putting up a fight. Morgan should have put the overtake on earlier, which he is using now to send it to the inside. Just enough room left by Chubster. And Morgan now to the inside. Laser's watching this unfold. Morgan is in front. But he has lost quite a lot of time to Small Nick, who's looking for P2. Eggy still sticking with Frosty. And Oren out on his own at the moment. So if there was a safety car, Seb could gain 3 positions here with the 3-second runners. But in terms of pit stops, The three in front of him are yet to pit, though, as Morgan gets a penalty. No, Eggy has made a mistake. And, yeah, that's lost him about 5 seconds. He's had a spin. Oren still going strong in the lead. 11 laps halfway done on those tyres. Half the race and still setting fastest laps. Frosty looking good too. Eggy into the pit lane then. Chubster still sticking with Morgan as well. Seb was around 9 seconds behind Laser. It's got the gap down to about 7 now. Eggy into the pit lane then. Where will he come out? Probably in between Seb and Drifting. There goes Seb. He'll be close with Drifting. As he crosses the line, still with that 10-second time penalty. Eggy into turn 1. Drifting hangs it round. And Eggy, I guess, crosses the line there. But I think that was a bit later on. So Eggy stays in front, in between. As Chubster is back in front of Morgan. And Chubster, who we know has shown good pace like we saw in Austria, is showing that he's good enough to still fight Morgan. Chubster, of course, yet to pit, I believe. Yeah. So Morgan doesn't really need to try anything silly. He knows he's going to get third at the moment. I mean, you never know with Frosty on the mediums at the end, but he knows Eggy's certainly throwing away a lot of points. We could still see Seb as high as 4th here. I'm not going to lie. There's still 3 to pit, so that would put him 5th. So yeah, Seb could still come away with 4th here if he really tries. Morgan fighting Chubster. Look, the gap's now 6 seconds to Nick. It'll be kind of close between Oren and Nick, though. Oren had a 6-second gap to Nick. Obviously, that's going to be a bit smaller by the end, I think. By the time he comes out the pit lane. Seb now only 1.8 behind Nathan. The hard runners are probably going to pit within the next couple laps. But the top 2 still staying out. Morgan all on the back of Chubster. Pretty much pushing him through the corners there, I believe. Chubster finally pits. Morgan gets his DRS. And now he's in clean air. Lucas staying out on the hards. Same with Nathan. And now Seb catches them. As Drifting's on the back of Eggy. Fastest lap for Seb. And Chubster comes into the pit lane. And he will be P10. Seb has used a lot of battery here. To try and get the DRS of Nathan. Which I believe he has got. 3-second penalty for Christian. DRS for Seb. Is he going to gain enough to send it at Lake Com? He looks a bit too far behind. And he will stay behind the Aston Martin for now. But Drifting is close enough to the Mercedes to get in front. And he might try and somehow appeal that 10-second. But I don't really know how. So Seb staying behind Nathan for now. Nick, 22.5 seconds off Oren for the lead. Closing in on Frosty. Who, since he hit 100 races, became the second ever Centurion in EXFL. He hasn't exactly had the greatest luck when racing. But at the moment, he's in a solid position. He didn't make a mistake like Eggy. So if you remove 5 seconds from Eggy, you'd probably place him. He might just get in front of Seb. So Seb would be, what, net 5th? But Seb has shown to have more pace than Frosty, so they could be on for a fight for 4th. We know the top 3 will be Oren, Nick, and Morgan. But they've got enough pace, the top 2. Those hards just don't die. As Seb's still behind Nathan. It's one of the greatest races I've seen Nathan do, at least for the stint-wise. Now he's into the pits. And the fun is kind of over. Don't speed. Good. So Seb is up to 6th. So not all doom and gloom so far for the championship leader. Lucas yet to stop. So if Seb were to finish 5th, Oren would gain 15 points. Again, ignoring fastest lap. So 29 points would go down to 14. And Morgan would gain about 5 points on Seb, which would go down to 25. So the top 3 would be separated by a win. And yeah, Seb, I'm sure he's going to be regretting pitting onto the Inters. Don't know if it was his call. Don't know if it was Josh's call, as Laser gets the second penalty. And I'm sure by the time Seb finishes this lap, catching Laser, he'll want him in the pit lane. And we'll see. Will Oren really stretch his strategy out to hard soft, potentially? Oren, Morgan, Seb, and also Gekabelg were all on 4 wins. As there we go, Oren is into the pit lane. They were all on 4 wins coming into the Hungarian Grand Prix. And Seb was the first to take his 5th win, winning out brilliantly at Hungary. And looks like Oren, at the moment, is set to equal him with a 5th win. Remember, the record in EXFL Tier 2 is 8. And after this race, we'll have 10 left. So you never know what could happen. Frosty's staying out. But I think Oren may even be able to stay in front of Frosty. It's going to be kind of close. And into turn 1, it's Oren still in front of the Red Bull. But he sees him in his sight, and I believe he might also get DRS. Seb is ahead of Laser because he's now into the pit lane. Eggy sticking with drifting, still on for a P6 at the moment. These two fought in Britain as well. So they're no stranger to one another. Chubster a bit on his own, but Laser will be closing him down on the mediums. Even though they're on the same tyre. Still, you never know. Frosty didn't get past Oren. Oren used a bit of battery. So Oren still comfortably in the lead. 3.2 ahead of Small Nick. And I'm sure we're about to see a great stint from Oren. Fastest laps incoming on the mediums. Who's just looked so in control in 5 of the last 6 races, ignoring Hungary. But the job's not done yet. He still has to avoid warnings in case of safety cars and stuff. The top, I was going to say the 3 title protagonists all without a pen, but I just realised Morgan has one. So if there is a safety car, that could really affect his chances. Morgan, who is in the McLaren, but obviously his points will go to Alpine. He just accidentally pressed the wrong car. This is why you don't join in quali. Seb needs to take about 5 seconds out of Morgan. But Seb is on the oldest tyres of the lot, I believe. Yeah. Right, what about Frosty Life? Finally dives into the pit lane. He'll be on the mediums, and he'll be one quick driver, probably in 7th. And he'll chase down Eggy in drifting, who's closing in. Eggy with a bunch more battery to use. Frosty exits the pit lane. He might even get in front of these lot. It's going to be close. You can see Seb starting the lap. And Seb will probably just about get in front of the Red Bull driver. It's going to be close between the two. Frosty emerges as Nathan gets a penalty. And they're going to be close as Seb does get in front of Frosty. But on the medium compound tyres, it's going to be Seb versus the Red Bull. And on much quicker medium compound tyres, he's got the DRS. Seb has barely any battery, and Frosty is going to fly by back into P4. He's played his cards right as we see Eggy getting past drifting for P6. And if these two work together well enough, they could maybe gain on Seb, who's going to try and stick with Frosty all he can. It's going to be a very close contested battle. But I think the top 3, as far as they're concerned, they know where they're going to finish. So we've lost Josh Hewitt, who Shock once again gave up during the race. Messed up his strategy. Christian, who's had quite a few spins. Nathan, who unfortunately was running in 5th at one point, pulled off some great moves and good racing, has now found himself down in 10th. Same penalties as Laser, who finds himself in 8th. Chubster got some good pace, has found himself in Laser 9th. Chubster 8th. Drifting, still fighting with a 10 second, so he's got to get 7 seconds on Chubster, which I believe he should be able to do. So he won't lose a place, but still fighting with Eggy. Seb has lost the DRS to Frosty Life. Oren, fastest lap of the race. Seb using all the battery he can to gain back within a second, but Eggy is now nearly within a second of Seb. He is within a second of Seb. Eggy using all his battery to gain, and he is now comfortably going to be in the DRS. So Eggy versus Seb for P5 now, as it looks like Frosty has got the momentum, has got the pace to pull away from the championship leader. So good stuff from the Red Bull driver. And now Eggy is going to be putting Seb under lots of pressure. And I'm sure Oren and Morgan will be hoping 2 more extra points to gain will do just nicely. Don't really know about drifting though with his 10-second, but I'm sure Eggy will certainly love that he's fighting P1 in the standings at the moment. So a race that started out with wet weather but still dry tyres has changed the face of the race. And now we see Eggy with a DRS fly past Seb into P5. If he didn't make that spin, he could have been well further up the order. Probably a few seconds in front of Frosty. Which Frosty would have had to close in on. But instead, Eggy's now going to have to hold on to Seb and fight, as drifting now is right behind the RB as well. Looks like the gaps are just getting bigger and bigger between the top three. As we have about 6 laps to go. And obviously next week will be the Dutch Grand Prix, Frosty's home Grand Prix. I'm sure also a return to the podium would be nice. He hasn't had a podium in quite some time. He's had quite a lot of 4th, 5th here and there, but he's got some good pace now. You never know, actually. Speaking of podiums, Frosty, if he can gain enough on Morgan, and maybe pray that Morgan gets another penalty, he's got to take 3.8 seconds out of the Alpine driver in about 6 laps. He's gained some time here and there. And you never know if Frosty could get onto the podium. But he's looking good. Eggy, not much battery really. Seb has saved a bit more. Drifting's got plenty. If Drifting wants to try a cheeky double overtake. But Oren, who I think fired his race engineer, Callum, mic quality is the reason. Don't know about that, if he'll be reinstated or not. But with or without, he's showing either way. Oren has got the pace, got the drive, got the stability to lead, dominate races smartly. Just puts his car perfectly. Drifting now gets a 3-second anyway, so it doesn't even matter if he beats these two at this rate. But I hope Callum comes back to race engineer. It's still nice. Logan, I'm sure, has also taken a bit of a break. So into the second half of the season, I think they might both not be coaching Seb and Oren. I mean, they don't really need it now. They know they're the ones fighting for this championship, and still don't discount Morgan. After that brilliant last 5-lap stint where Morgan was second, pitted for softs, still finished second on the road with a brilliant last corner, last lap overtake. Saw him still gain a bunch of points. And if we ignore what happened in Hungary, I'm sure Oren would be right with Seb in the championship, may even be overtaking him. But Seb, no matter what, like I said earlier on, will still lead the championship after this race. Just depends what the gap is. It's 29 points at the moment to Oren. But if Seb finishes 6th and Oren with the 25 and fastest lap, 26.18, it'll go down to 11 between the two, which means that is the closest it will have ever been in the championship, I believe. Because after the first round, which Seb won, I believe Oren didn't even... I don't actually know where he finished, but it was definitely not in the top 5. As they carry on, Eggy, Seb and Drifting. I'm just going to double check where Oren finished. Oren finished 13th. He was lapped in the first race. So I think the closest the gap has got to is 14, and that was after the British Grand Prix. So if it finishes like this, the gap will be as close as ever. I have 11 points between the two. But Seb has to make sure he doesn't get too caught up with Drifting. And if he can gain 2 more extra points on Eggy, save his battery, use the DRS, it wouldn't be too bad of a comeback after, unfortunately, having to make an extra 2 stops. Well, extra stop due to the rain. And looking back to Frosty, the gap is 5 seconds. It was 6.5. Don't discount Frosty Life from getting on the podium. He only needs to take 1.5 seconds. Look how much time he's gaining. As that's... Oh, as soon as I say that, he goes off. He gets a warning and he gets a penalty. So now, I think he was definitely going to get within 3 seconds as well. Now, he's got... as Oren's on lap 90. Okay, he's got 4 laps to gain 4 seconds. That's going to be tough. And obviously it's one thing to gain, it's another to pass. He has the pace for it, as Seb is really close to Eggy. As soon as... as if. I'll quickly check when was Frosty's last, as Chubstick now gets a penalty. When was Frosty's last podium? He hasn't had one this season. His last podium was Australia last season. Wow. 11. It has been exactly 30 races since Frosty's last podium. Wow. So a lot of P4s and P5s. Anyway, he's still got to gain about a second a lap. And at the moment, he is doing that. But it'll be close. Morgan, I'm sure, will be seeing this. And if Morgan does get another penalty... Oh, come on. Oh, not this glitch again. It stuck me in the damn thing. Well, Oren's about to complete lap 20. So I could probably just quickly restart my game and join back. Quality game. Anyway, 3 laps to go. There's no chance of a safety car. Oren just has to... Morgan's gone into AI to invite me. Morgan, you've got other things to worry about. Frosty's gaining on you. And that's going to lose you quite a bit of time unless he's on the straight. It's generous, it's nice, but don't worry, mate. I got it covered. We're joining back. And I swear to God, if I see like 3 people out, come on. Seriously, what is this? Right, I've accepted Morgan's invite. Hopefully that works. Yes, Morgan. My saviour. We're joining back. Should be the end of lap 20 by now. Ish. Right then. We resume. They remain as they are. Nothing happened. Okay. 1.7 seconds then. Frosty is closing in. Oren has started the penultimate lap. Why is Oren... Okay, I got scared then. I thought Oren disconnected. Oren with a 12-second lead over Small Nick, who's looking for another great podium. And Morgan, who's once again trying to hang on to the podium. But Frosty is only 1.5 seconds with 2 laps to go. And he'll be in the DRS. So it's going to come down to the last lap fight for the last spot on the podium between Morgan, who really wants those 3 extra points to gain on Seb, or Frosty, who wants a first podium for the first time in 30 races. And who's going to come out on top of this one? Seb has used quite a bit of battery there. Eggy is saved, and Seb is looking keen to get in front this time. Drifting, watching all this unfold. Seb this time round. Here comes Sebastian Ferrugia. Gets past Eggy into P5, and there's Drifting as well. Could he also get past Seb? He's flying past the pair of them. And Seb trying to hang it around the outside, but Drifting now finds himself in front, and that might be what Seb wants, actually, heading into the last lap to have DRS on Drifting and make sure he stays in front of Eggy. Alpine versus RB, but at the moment, Alpine helping RB. So it'll be interesting to see if Drifting pulls over, slows down. It's 1 second between Frosty and Morgan. Frosty, though, has used all his battery to gain. Morgan's got plenty of it. And he is smartly playing this. Frosty giving his all. It is under 1 second, but Morgan could tactically use it now so Frosty doesn't get DRS, or he could just wait until the last lap. Speaking of the last lap, Oren is now going to begin it, and it's going to take the last 1 minute 46 seconds of glory before he crosses the line to win for a 5th time. Does number 95. Smolnik will come round for P2. Bit of a quiet race. It is 1.1. Morgan, look how much battery he blasted. So he does manage to stay out of DRS threat. He tactically used all his battery as we look to the 3 behind. Drifting. What's he going to do then? He knows he's vulnerable. Eggy's got plenty of battery to still maybe have a chance at Seb. 1.1 seconds. Frosty, unfortunately, he tried, and if he didn't get that 3 second, he would have got the podium. But unfortunately, it's still going to be a 4th. So I think that's decided. Drifting versus Seb versus Eggy. Seb looking for P5. Eggy wants it back. They're all going to be blasting a battery now. Seb, look how much battery he's used. Here comes Eggy then for a potential 3 wide as Eggy's onto the grass to get the pair of them. Can he get in front? Unbelievably, he can. Eggy gets in front but goes off as well. And Seb too goes off as Drifting stays in front. And Eggy finds himself in 5th, but he went off track as well. Don't know what we said about that. It was a great bit of driving as he broke a bit too late, but Seb went off as well. So, it might be alright as Drifting finds himself in the pair of them, but Eggy had plenty of battery to use. Seb was on 3%. So at the moment, Seb is going to finish 6th and Eggy will beat him. Frosty closing in as he much. Can't quite get him. We're expecting Oren round the final corner for the 5th time in EXFL Tier 2. Oren is victorious. He wins the Belgian Grand Prix and he has put his statement on the second half of the season to close the gap to Seb. Smolnik will cross the line for a brilliant P2 finish and more points on the board. And Morgan will hang on to the podium as he crosses the line just in front of Frosty to take P3. Frosty P4 and Eggy. It's still a fight to the line. Drifting around the outside of Eggy for P5 on track, but it's not going to be it. And Eggy switchbacks. They're going to be wheel to wheels. They cross the line. Who's going to be in front? It's Eggy who stays in front of Drifting. And penalties or not, Eggy stayed in front on track anyway. Seb finishes 6th. Drifting will obviously drop down to 7th. Chubster missed out by 1.9 for P8. Laser will come home in 9th. Nathan will get another point, and Christian will unfortunately be 11th. So who got the fastest lap in the end? Yep, Oren. Only one in the 44s. Crazy pace. Absolutely sublime from him. Then again, he was on the mediums. These lot were on the hards. So yep, 26 points for Oren. 8 for Seb. 18 points gained. The gap goes from 29 points down to 11. It's the closest it has ever been with 10 races to go between the two. Morgan also gains 7 points, 30 down to 23. So the top 3 covered by 23 points with 10 to go. So there we have it. Oren brilliantly wins the Belgian Grand Prix. It is 5 wins in 7 races. He's on an absolute charge for the championship and now finds himself only 11 points with still 10 to go. And at this rate, it might be more about Seb closing the gap, maintaining than Oren gaining. But you never know. Right, let's get the top 3 in. I don't know if I can really interview Nick, but I can definitely interview Oren and Morgan. Here we have joining us the McLaren, Alpine driver of Morgan, and the Aston Martin of Oren. I don't think Nick can join and do interviews, but anyway, well done on him for P2. Get Oren back in real quick. Right, Morgan, mate, hello. Have you included your audio?
I have.
Alright, so you weren't even supposed to be expected to race today, but still. You got back in, which is great to see, and you got another podium out of it. And don't worry, your points will still go to Alpine, even though you picked McLaren. So yeah, just take us through your race. You qualified third, I think.
Second.
Second. Sorry, Seb was third. And yeah, just take us through the start, how your race went.
Well, I mean, I think everyone had a bit of a stinker. In all fairness, like if you look at the weather, I don't think that was really knew what's done. If we raced that about four weeks ago with the actual with the start that we had, I would have started with it on inters. But there has been occasions where you usually start on slicks in that, because obviously it's a game error. It would normally mean that slicks are slightly quicker, but I almost would have started on intermediates if my brain was up and functioning, but it wasn't, so I started on the softs, and then it kind of just took itself from there. First couple of laps were alright, in all fairness, and then I just started falling back from small nickels he passed me, and then I was trying to defend the rest of the race to try and keep my position, and then Frosty Life just thankfully did Frosty Life and got a penalty. So
yeah, you managed to save your battery towards the end. You used it quite well on the penultimate lap to make sure you didn't get DRS. It looks like Nick just had a bit more pace to stay in second. Bit of a smooth race, not too crazy, but at the start you had a little moment going around the outside of Oren, and then turn one, and then you had to back out a little bit, and then you saw Seb make a mistake and go off, and you got him at the straight after Radion.
I did. Quite easy in all fairness, had a lot of
so
battery.
P3 for you. You gained 7 points on Seb, so 30 points behind goes down to 23. So all three of you back within a win. Still 10 races to go. A lot of opportunities left, and like you said before the race, you want to win this championship. At the moment, you're the dark horse, still trying to gain on both Oren and Seb. Heading into the Dutch Grand Prix next week, how are your thoughts with that track?
The next couple of tracks aren't. I think today I knew I wouldn't be high, but obviously for some reason I've been decided to be Ferrari in terms of strategy, which is quite fortunate. Hopefully they'll be like that for the rest of the season. Next week, obviously, is Zandvoort. Not really too great example, if I'm being too honest with you. But I just take it the race as it goes, if I'm honest.
Fair. And hopefully, you'll do well in Zandvoort as well. Gain the most ground you can. Anyway, on to Oren. Are you there?
Yeah, hello.
Yep, I've already said I'm going to just call you Oren because it's easier for me.
No,
and
I'm not bothered about it.
The nickname. Cool. Right, I don't know if you can include your audio.
Yeah, I think I've checked it, so yeah.
Alright, cool. Let me just quickly change from Alpine to Aston. There we go. Right, Oren, that is 5 wins in 7 races for you after an unfortunate Hungarian Grand Prix. You are back on the top step of the podium. Cool, calm and collected. You took pole brilliantly. You're in Seb's position that he was in Britain, where if you didn't get the lap, you would be last. But you took pole. Was there any nerves going on, or did you just think, I've got the pace, I can take pole?
Leading up to the lap, my lap on mediums and my lap on softs didn't feel too great. They were quite oversteery on exits of corners, and that led to me invalidating twice. So I wasn't very confident that I would get pole, but in the end, still got it anyway. So I was happy with that. But yeah, pole was
And then
a surprise.
And then the start, your only challenge really was Seb, who was next to you heading into a rouge, but then he backed off a bit. And I think after literally turn 2, just nothing happened in your race.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just another one of those where you're on the opposite strategy, so you're on the quicker stint at the end, and it was just extending the gap. You got the pace out right. And you closed the gap from 29 points down to 11. It is the closest you have ever been to Seb and the lead of the championship. Obviously, it was 14, I believe, before Hungary. So what you've lost there, you've gained back now. I believe it's literally the same. Seb won, you're 6th. And then today, you won and Seb is 6th. So
Seb not come 5th?
or something like that.
I think. Sure.
No, Eggy came 5th. Seb got 6th.
What did it? Oh, I got 5th.
Yeah, it all got a bit not messy, but like a lot of battles towards the end with Eggy drifting and Seb.
Yeah.
But anyway, you close the gap to only 11 points now. So if you win with the fastest lap next week and Seb is 3rd, you'll be level on points. But obviously you, for the first time, would take the championship lead. 10 races to go, still plenty of time left. But you must obviously be feeling good with what's left.
Yeah, it's good. I'm going into Zandvoort, and it's a good track. I quite like it, especially if it rains right now. I'll be in a good spot. I won there in BRL. I probably shouldn't have, because Callum probably would have won if he had a clean race. But it was a good indication that I'm probably going to be quite competitive around Zandvoort next week.
Indeed, you took your 4th pole. Obviously your 5th win, so you're again tied with Seb. 10 races to go. You and Seb have 5 wins. Morgan has 4. I did mention the record is 8. We could potentially be seeing that leveled or even beaten this season, which is crazy to think about. But very well done on the win. Zandvoort next. Obviously, and after that is Italy. And if you win Italy, I'm definitely going to say he won in Spa, he won in Monza or whatever. But well done on the win today, mate. Well done on the podium, Morgan. Well done to Nick on P2. The strategy just didn't work for Seb and RB pitting for Inters. Same with drifting. But he'll probably bounce back in Netherlands. He always does. And we'll see you then.